Hello, you beautiful bunch of bastards. It's great to be back. Thanks for joining me for another Techspert Weekly, and apologies again for the lack of hot show action last week. I was actually holidaying in the Isle of Wight, which mostly involved diving face first into ice-cold British seas in my least crowd-pleasing budgie smugglers, and attempted to put some sort of colour onto my pasty northern flesh, even if that colour inevitably ended up being blue. And I don't know if you've ever been to the Isle of Wight, obviously, but my problem with it is basically covered in hills, and you have to drive absolutely everywhere on the most ridiculously swervy, narrow, weird little roads. And I swear to God, the Isle of Wight seems to attract the world's slowest drivers, and then factor in the army of tractors, and it's just an absolute hellscape. And I hate driving at the best of times anyway, so for me, a trip to the Isle of Wight was kind of like someone with type 2 diabetes taking a holiday in Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. So yeah, next year I think I'll probably just stick a load of alcohol in the fridge, erect a tent right next to it, and just be done with it. But anyhow, I'm actually just bollocking on now. I've got 2 weeks of tech news to catch up on, so enough of my jabber, jingle me.
Techspert Weekly.
So today, Samsung released its latest mid-range marvel, the Galaxy A52s 5G. And this is very similar to the original A52 5G from earlier in the year, with an extra S, which possibly stands for shit-hot performance. That's because the chipset has been upgraded from a Snapdragon 750G to the fresher 778G. So you've got even less excuse when a bunch of smug, dateless teenagers gun you to bits in Call of Duty. And my sample is due to arrive first thing this morning, so hopefully by the time you're watching this on the YouTubes, I will be merrily shooting an unboxing video ready to go live hopefully on Saturday as possibly the shittest weekend treat ever. And also this week, Fossil has at long last unveiled the Generation 6 smartwatch, its first proper timepiece in absolutely yonks. The Gen 6 watch is powered by Qualcomm's Snapdragon Wear 4100 Plus chipset, as previously seen in a couple of Mobvoi TicWatches and bugger all else really, but it should provide plenty of grunt for powering the watch and let you do basically whatever you want on the thing. Fossil is offering a variety of styles and straps to suit all tastes, including some quite garish ones for those with no taste at all, with a water-resistant design and a choice of 42 and 44mm sizes. This is a premium watch through and through, boasting features like a crisp AMOLED screen, NFC, built-in mic and speaker, and the usual fitness tracking support. Although apparently when the Fossil Gen 6 is released, it won't be rocking that fresh new Wear OS 3 as recently featured on Samsung's Galaxy Watch 4. Apparently that will be coming to the watch, but not until 2022 at some point. Bit disappointing for sure, and hopefully won't be waiting too long for that update to trickle on through. But the Fossil Generation 6 smartwatch, if you're interested, starts from $299. We haven't got UK pricing yet or the general release date, but hopefully should be soon. Next up, Jabra unleashed its new Elite 7 Pro True Wireless earbuds with a more compact design, improved call clarity, and longer battery life versus the older Elite 75Ts, which were already some of the hottest buds around. Not literally, of course, that would be a bit burny, although possibly also deal with pesky ear hair by singeing it into oblivion. Jabra's custom 6mm speakers are packed inside the Elite 7 Pro with the ability to tweak the audio using a nifty sound profiling feature so it suits your own lug holes. Plus there's adjustable ANC with a whopping 11 different levels of effectiveness to match precisely how annoying your family is being at any given moment. And as if that wasn't all thigh-strokingly seductive enough, the Jabra Elite 7 Pros can also apparently spaff music into your skull for an impressive 9 hours at a stretch before they finally need to be returned to the case for a bit of a juice-up. And if Jabra actually delivers on all of these promises, then the Elite 7 Pros could easily be the most spooge-worthy true wireless earbuds of 2021, hopefully bringing you a full review soon. Laptop news, and Asus has spread its metaphorical legs this week and given birth to a dozen or so laptops, all aimed at creative users with varying levels of wealth. On the cheaper end of the scale is the fresh VivoBook Pros in 14, 15 or 16-inch flavours. These start from just over $1,000 and sport a 16x10 OLED screen, up to 4K res on the 16-incher, plus up to 11th gen Intel H series or AMD Ryzen 5000H series CPUs, as well as a bit of dual fan cooling and fully customizable specs. Otherwise, if you're proper minted and need to do some serious video editing or 3D modeling, then definitely check out the Asus ProArt Studio Books. These 16-inch monsters start from a cool $2,000 and boast lots of fancy bollocks, including up to a 3rd gen Intel Xeon workstation processor and ASUS's funky dial, which can be used for super precise fingertip control in supported apps from the likes of Adobe. And last up, Xiaomi announced that it will finally be dropping that useless Mi bit in all of its smartphone names from now on. So, for instance, the Xiaomi Mi 12 will actually just be the Xiaomi 12, thus saving me valuable seconds when I actually shoot a video on the bugger. Precious seconds that I've already wasted on this dumb little news segment. And looking online, some people seem genuinely put out by this, and I'm not really sure why, because surely having an extra Mi after Xiaomi is like a person having a 3rd nipple or James Corden's very existence. Completely pointless and mostly just annoying. And anyway, there's plenty of other tech news over the past couple of weeks, but that's about all I can be bothered with right now. Which lamentably means it's time for that part of the show that'll make you wish you were watching a Mrs. Brown's Boys compilation hosted by James Corden with musical interludes from a flatulent bagpiper. It's viewer comments.
Viewer comments.
Right, okay, so kicking us off this week is John. Hi, John. He says, I can't believe such a booze connoisseur as yourself has never heard of Mad Dog 2020. That stuff was the tits back in my youth, and I'm sure it's one of the reasons I'm diabetic these days. Yeah, I mean, I can empathise with you there. I'm actually genuinely surprised I don't regularly piss blood and shit radioactive waste after all of those god-awful Alka-Pops I used to pour down my throat as a young, and the hooch and the red pig and whatever else there was, with basically 99% sugar and carcinogens. Next up, Mark says, my daughter came into the room and asked me what I was watching. Without hesitation, I said it's called Tourette's Spurt Weekly, and then corrected myself and told her it's Tech Spurt Weekly. She watched it and then said, I think your first title was better suited. You have a new fan though, that's always good to hear. Maybe I could start Tourette's Spurt Weekly and that would basically be the uncensored version of everything, although I'm not sure I would get many advertisers appearing on that, which would be a bit of a shame because I really like money. Money buys alcohol, and alcohol helps to blunt out the harsh edges of reality. The subject of classic cinema, Stephen says, The Crying Game, an absolute abysmal 90s film, would rather gouge my eyes out than watch that again. Yeah, I mean, I can't really remember much about it now, apart from the obvious bits which kind of linger up in the old skull. I mean, I must have been like 11 or 12 or something when I watched that film. It was back in the days when, of course, you'd stay up late just watching whatever crap was on TV because you didn't have the internet. You didn't know if any films that were coming on were actually any good or not. What I do remember is the mini spurt, 11 or 12-year-old me was very, very confused after watching that film. I basically figured that, some girls just had extra bits, just like boys did. And, if you asked a girl out, you're just kind of hoping she had the right bits or something. Again, this is pre-internet days where you could just look up on Google. Speaking of Google, Armchair Critic says, any news on the Google Fold? No, absolutely nothing meaty in the rumours or leaks areas at all. Not even salad dressing, really, to be honest. There's talk that it might be teased at the Pixel 6 launch, which should be happening in the next few weeks, touch wood. But that's about it. It probably won't be till 2022 at the very earliest. And Armchair Critic continues, do you watch cricket? If so, would you review the current Test match cricket series between England versus India? And sorry to say, I find cricket about as appealing as golf, which is to say I'd rather tie a bungee cord around the old fella and then leap off a skyscraper. Although I've got to admit, I could be tempted to maybe go see it live with a bunch of mates or something, because it basically just seems like an excuse to sit around drinking all day, which is presumably why it was invented in the first place. Next up, Pubs4 says, do you think the 5A will eventually come to Blighty? I very much doubt it. I'm not even sure why the Pixel 5A even exists, to be honest with you. It's essentially a slight, very slight upgrade on the Pixel 4A 5G, which we've already got, obviously. It's actually a step backwards if you prefer a more compact handset. Here's hoping Google is basically just putting all of its care and love and attention into the Pixel 6 flagship and making that absolutely hot. Now, still on the subject of Pixel phones, Paul says, early reports say that the Pixel 5A overheats in video, and the Pixel 5 has apparently been discontinued, at least here in the US. Yeah, I mean, Google seems to be doing things very differently in the US compared with the UK. Here in Blighty, we've still got the 4A, the 4A 5G, and the 5, although they are teasing the 6 there on the website as well. But yeah, on the subject of overheating, I did find that the current range, they tended to overheat a little bit as well. When you were using them in the sun, I noticed they got really, really hot, which means that here in England, that was only really a problem for about half a week in early May. Next up, Matt says, geez, Chris, it's summer in England, but you look as pasty pale as a ghost. Is it summer though, Matt? Is it summer? You could have fooled me, mate. You really could. It was actually all right in the Isle of Wight, but the problem is that I'm northern, right? So my skin has two states. It's either so pale it's practically translucent, or it's so red that I'd put most lobsters to shame. And to be perfectly honest with you as well, like most of my time in the Isle of Wight was either spent passed out in the shade or suffering through the most god-awful kids disco thing in the world ever, where I was subjected not only to Agadoo, but also Mr. Pissin' Blobby and that friggin' baby shark monstrosity as well, which actually brought me out in a proper blood rage, just like an actual shark presented with a bucket of chum. Anyway, moving swiftly onwards, Baz Anime says, watching your bold bonds on my Fold 2 screen, your eyebrows look good in it. Well, of course they do, mate. I mean, come on, you could be watching this video right here on some crappy 1960s CRT piece of junk, and these luscious furry bad boys would still bring all the boys to the yard. And there's a bang up-to-date pop reference for you. Bosh! Next up, Stacey says, are you going to be reviewing the Nothing Ear One earbuds? Yeah, I mean, if they actually bother to send some to me, then I will. I think they unfortunately might have seen some of my previous coverage on Nothing, and maybe that slightly put them off. Next up, Andrew says, hey Chris, I have a thought. Those snippets of movies that you show on the phones, could you please provide the titles either on screen or in the comment section? That would make it easier to find them. Cheerio. Yeah, I mean, that's not a bad idea at all. I do occasionally get asked in the comments, what is that movie at, timestamp? And between my crap memory and my drinking habits, I often can't even remember myself. Oh, sorry. I'm not getting all emotional. I just think I've just got a bit of gas or something. Oh, don't force it. Monty says, if you wait till the 3rd of September, the Samsung A52s 5G will be coming out with the Snapdragon 778G. Way ahead of your months. Yep, definitely really looking forward to having a bit of a fondle with that. I'm going to bring you a full review after the unboxing as well. But yeah, stay tuned tomorrow for more on that little delight. And time is really ticking away, so better make this the last one for the week. Sean says, I've lost track of Motorola's G-Range. Yeah, I mean, these days it's more of a brain f*** than watching a David Lynch marathon after a yard of Blue Wicked. I mean, if you saw my recent video where I unboxed basically the full range of Moto G smartphones all the way back from the original, it was just so much simpler back then. Even when they brought in like the Pro models and stuff, it was still like, a couple of phones a year tops. I also think I used to drink less back then as well, so just everything was a lot less confusing. But anywho, massive thank you to everyone who commented 2 weeks ago now. Apologies again for not being able to get a show spaffed out for you last week, but thanks again for joining me this week, and please do smash your comments down below. We'll try and barrel away merrily through as many of those as possible. Again, noon Friday next week. And speaking of next week, what the fuck is next week? It looks like there's actually sod all going on next week. Again, that might just be me forgetting to put stuff into the calendar, but touch wood, that means I can just basically get on with a massive pile of review kit that is staring me right in the face right now and looking rather intimidating, I'm not gonna lie. Never you mind, I've also got a box full of booze sat right through that little door there, so that'll help get me through it all. So yeah, thanks again for joining me, and don't forget to come back next week and leave the comments and have yourselves a fan-bloody-tastic weekend. Love you. I'll subscribe you.